If you've ever been told there is one perfect blood pressure number for everyone, no matter your age, that idea sounds simple, but it is not entirely accurate. And in some cases, it can actually lead to confusion, unnecessary anxiety, or even over-treatment. Because here is the truth most people are never clearly told. The safest blood pressure for you is not just a single fixed number. It depends on your age, your overall health, your blood vessels, and how your body tolerates pressure changes over time. And once you understand this properly, you stop chasing numbers blindly and start understanding what your body is actually doing. Let's start with the basics first. Blood pressure is usually written as two numbers. The top number, called systolic pressure, measures the force when your heart beats. The bottom number, diastolic pressure, measures the force when your heart rests between beats. Both matter, but they behave differently with age. Now, for younger adults, blood vessels are more flexible.
The heart and arteries respond quickly, and the body can handle tighter ranges more easily. But as you get older, your blood vessels naturally become stiffer. This changes how pressure behaves inside your system. So the question becomes, what is actually safe as you age? Let's break it down in a practical, honest way. For many adults, a general target often discussed in medical guidelines is around 120/80, but that does not mean this is the ideal or safest number for every single person over 60 or 70. In fact, for some older adults, especially those who are frail, have a history of dizziness, or already have vascular stiffness, pushing blood pressure too low can create its own risks. This includes dizziness, falls, reduced blood flow to the brain, and fatigue. On the other hand, allowing blood pressure to stay too high increases long-term risks like stroke, heart attack, kidney damage, and artery strain. So the real goal is not perfection, it is balance. Now let's talk about what safe ranges often look like in real life across different age groups. In younger and middle-aged adults, lower readings closer to normal ranges are usually well tolerated, but after 60, doctors often look more carefully at both the numbers and how the person feels. A reading that is technically normal on paper may not be ideal if it causes dizziness or weakness. For many older adults, slightly higher but stable blood pressure can sometimes be safer than aggressively lowering it too much. This is because the body still needs enough pressure to properly circulate blood to the brain, kidneys, and other organs. And this is where the shocking part comes in for many people. Lower is not always better. That idea became popular because high blood pressure is dangerous, which is absolutely true. But the correction to that problem does not always mean pushing everyone to the lowest possible number. What matters more is stability over time. Now, here is something most people never think about. Your blood pressure is not supposed to be identical every single moment of the day. It naturally changes with movement, meals, stress, sleep, and posture. A healthy system has flexibility. Problems begin when those fluctuations become too extreme or when pressure stays too high or too low for long periods. So instead of asking, what is the perfect number? A better question is my blood pressure staying in a stable, safe range for my body? Now let's talk about why age changes everything. As you get older, your arteries become less elastic. This means the heart has to pump against slightly more resistance. That often raises the top number, systolic pressure. At the same time, the bottom number, diastolic pressure, may stay the same or even drop slightly. This widening gap between the two numbers is common with aging, but it also gives important clues about arterial stiffness. If systolic pressure is consistently high, it suggests your heart is working harder to push blood through less flexible vessels. If diastolic pressure is too low, it can sometimes mean your arteries are not maintaining enough pressure between beats, which can affect blood flow to vital organs. This is why both numbers matter together, not just one. Now let's talk about symptoms, because this is where numbers alone are not enough. You can have normal blood pressure and still feel unwell. And you can have slightly elevated readings and feel completely fine. So your body's signals matter just as much as the monitor. Warning signs that blood pressure may not be in a safe range for you include frequent dizziness when standing up, unexplained fatigue, headaches, chest discomfort, blurry vision, or feeling unusually weak after small activities. On the other hand, consistently high readings without symptoms are also dangerous because damage can still be happening silently to blood vessels and organs. Now let's move into something very important. The biggest mistake people make is reacting to single readings instead of patterns. One high reading after stress or a bad night means very little. One low reading after rest also means little. What matters is the trend over days and weeks. That is what gives a true picture of cardiovascular health. Now let's talk about something that changes everything for people over 60. Blood pressure targets should sometimes be individualized. This means your doctor may adjust what is ideal based on your medical history. For example, someone with diabetes, kidney disease, or a history of stroke may need stricter control, but someone prone to falls or dizziness may need a more cautious approach to avoid overtreatment. This is why self-adjusting medication or obsessing over strict numbers without medical guidance can be risky. Now, here is what actually helps maintain safer blood pressure as you age, regardless of the exact target. Regular movement is one of the most powerful tools. Walking, light strength training, and staying physically active helps keep blood vessels flexible and responsive. Balanced eating patterns also matter. Diets high in processed foods, excess salt, and sugar can push blood pressure higher over time, while whole foods, fiber, and healthy fats support better regulation. Sleep quality is another major factor. Poor sleep disrupts hormonal balance and can raise blood pressure both during the night and the next day. Stress management is often underestimated. Chronic stress keeps the nervous system in a heightened state, which can elevate blood pressure even when you are resting. Hydration, weight balance, and avoiding excessive alcohol also play important roles in long-term stability. Now let's bring everything together. The safest blood pressure for your age is not just a number on a screen. It is a combination of numbers, symptoms, stability, and how your body feels and functions over time. A truly healthy system is not rigid. It adapts, it responds, it stays within a safe range without extreme highs or dangerous lows. So instead of chasing a single perfect reading, focus on building a system that keeps your blood pressure steady, your energy stable, and your organs well supported. Because the real goal is not just living longer, it is living with a heart and vascular system that stays strong, steady, and reliable as you age. And if you really want to understand what safe blood pressure for your age means in a deeper, more practical sense, you have to look beyond clinics and numbers entirely and start looking at how your body behaves in real-life situations. Because here is something most people never realize. A blood pressure reading taken in a calm medical environment is only a snapshot. It does not show how your body responds to stress, movement, meals, emotions, or sleep. But those are the moments where problems often begin. For example, imagine your blood pressure is normal at rest in the morning, but later in the day, after a stressful phone call or a rushed walk, you feel your heart pounding, slight head pressure, or sudden fatigue. That reaction tells you something important. Your cardiovascular system is less stable than the single reading suggests. Now let's go deeper into how age changes what safe actually means in daily life. As you move past 60, your body becomes more sensitive to sudden changes in pressure. Not just high pressure, but also drops. This is why some older adults feel dizzy when standing up quickly. That condition is called orthostatic hypotension, and it happens when blood pressure doesn't adjust fast enough to changes in posture. This is where the idea of lower is always better becomes risky. If blood pressure is pushed too low in someone whose circulation already struggles to adapt, the brain may temporarily receive less blood flow during movement. That can increase fall risk, confusion, and even fainting. On the other side, if blood pressure is too high for too long, the arteries are constantly under stress. Over time, this damages the delicate inner lining of blood vessels, making them stiffer and more prone to plaque buildup. That increases the risk of stroke and heart disease. So the real question is not just what number you see, but how well your body handles transitions. Now let's talk about something even more important. Pulse pressure. Pulse pressure is the difference between your top and bottom number. For example, if your blood pressure is 140/80, the pulse pressure is 60. As people age, this gap often widens because systolic pressure rises while diastolic stays the same or drops. A wider pulse pressure can be a sign that your arteries are becoming less flexible. That doesn't automatically mean danger in the short term, but it is an important signal about long-term vascular aging. This is why two people with the same normal reading can have very different risks depending on how those numbers are structured. Now let's bring in another hidden factor: morning blood pressure surge. Many people experience a natural rise in blood pressure in the early morning hours when the body prepares to wake up. This is normal, but in some individuals, especially older adults, this surge becomes exaggerated. That sudden spike can put extra stress on the heart and blood vessels right at the start of the day, which is why strokes and heart events are more common in the morning hours. If you've ever woken up feeling your heart racing, mild headache, or a sense of pressure in your chest or head, this could be related to that early morning rise. Now let's talk about why aging makes regulation harder. Your blood pressure is controlled by multiple systems working together. Your heart, blood vessels, kidneys, hormones, and nervous system all coordinate in real time. But with age, each of these systems becomes slightly less responsive. The result is slower adjustments. So instead of smooth, quick corrections, your body reacts more gradually. That delay can create temporary spikes or drops that feel unpredictable. This is why consistency becomes more important than perfection. A stable pattern that stays within a reasonable range is far healthier than constantly chasing an ideal number that fluctuates wildly. Now here's something most people never connect to blood pressure at all: muscle mass. As you age, loss of muscle is not just about strength. It also affects circulation. Muscles help push blood back toward the heart, especially in the legs. When muscle mass decreases, blood flow efficiency decreases as well. This can contribute to blood pooling, higher strain on the heart, and less stable pressure regulation. This is one reason why light strength training becomes increasingly important with age. It is not just about mobility. It is about supporting your circulatory system. Now let's address something very practical that many people experience but rarely connect to blood pressure: post-meal fatigue or sleepiness. If you feel unusually tired, heavy, or lightheaded after eating, especially large meals, it may be related to how your body is distributing blood flow. Digestion requires increased blood supply to the stomach and intestines. In some older adults, this shift can temporarily reduce blood flow elsewhere, especially if blood pressure regulation is already sensitive. This can sometimes feel like weakness or brain fog after meals, and it is a subtle sign that your system is working harder than it should to maintain balance. Now let's talk about medication in a more realistic way, because this is where many misunderstandings happen. Blood pressure medications are not designed to create a perfect number at all times. They are designed to reduce risk over time by keeping pressure within a safer range. But how your body responds can vary throughout the day and night. This is why timing, dosage, and type of medication matter, and why adjustments are sometimes needed as your body changes with age. What worked at 55 may not work exactly the same at 70. That is normal, not failure. Now let's connect all of this into a clearer picture. Safe blood pressure for your age is not just about avoiding high numbers. It is about maintaining a system that responds appropriately to life. A safe system means your pressure rises when you are active, but not excessively. Your pressure lowers when you rest, but not dangerously. Your body adjusts smoothly when you stand, walk, eat, or sleep. You do not experience frequent dizziness, confusion, or instability. Your readings follow a consistent pattern over time that is real cardiovascular stability. Now here is the most important mindset shift. The goal is not to chase a young person's number. The goal is to maintain a healthy, functioning system for your current age and condition. Because trying to force the body into overly aggressive targets can sometimes do more harm than good, especially if it leads to side effects like dizziness, fatigue, or poor circulation. And at the same time, ignoring consistently high readings because you feel fine is equally risky, because damage inside blood vessels can happen silently for years. So, the safest approach is awareness combined with balance. Track patterns, not panic readings. Focus on how you feel, not just what you see. Support your body with movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress control, and work with medical guidance instead of guessing alone. Because blood pressure is not just a number you measure. It is a reflection of how well your entire internal system is working together. And when that system is supported properly, something very powerful happens. You don't just get better readings, you get better energy, better stability, and a much stronger foundation for long-term health and independence. And there's still one more piece of this puzzle that brings everything together, and it's something that can completely change how you interpret your blood pressure readings going forward. Because even when people understand the numbers, they often miss the context in which those numbers appear. Let's say two people both have a reading of 135/80. On paper, it looks identical, but in real life, those two situations can mean very different things. One person might have that reading after a stressful argument, poor sleep, and a rushed morning with caffeine on an empty stomach. The other might have it after a calm day, good sleep, regular meals, and steady activity. Same number, completely different meaning. This is why blood pressure is not just a medical measurement. It is a reflection of your internal environment at that moment in time. Now let's talk about something very important that happens more often with age: reduced awareness of symptoms. As people get older, the body sometimes becomes less sensitive to early warning signals. That means you might not feel classic symptoms even when blood pressure is not well controlled. No headache, no obvious discomfort, no strong warning signs. But internally, the cardiovascular system may still be under strain. This is why relying only on how you feel can be misleading. Some people feel perfectly fine while their blood pressure is consistently higher than it should be. Others feel symptoms even with mild fluctuations. So the key is balance between numbers and awareness, not dependence on one alone. Now let's go deeper into something called blood pressure variability. This refers to how much your blood pressure changes throughout the day. A healthy system has variation, but within a controlled range. A problematic system has larger swings, sudden spikes, or unpredictable drops. High variability is becoming recognized as an important risk factor, sometimes even independent of average blood pressure. That means even if your average reading is acceptable, large fluctuations can still increase strain on the heart and blood vessels. This is especially relevant after 60 because regulatory systems become less stable. Stress, meals, activity, and even emotional changes can create larger shifts than they used to earlier in life. Now, here's something practical you can actually observe. If your blood pressure changes significantly between morning and evening or between rest and activity, that tells you more than a single reading ever could. It shows how adaptable your system is. A more stable system does not react dramatically to small triggers. A more sensitive system does. Now let's talk about the brain, because blood pressure is deeply connected to cognitive health. Your brain depends on a constant, steady supply of blood. If pressure is too low, blood flow may be insufficient. If it is too high, it can damage delicate blood vessels over time. Both extremes can affect brain function, memory, and long-term cognitive stability. This is why maintaining balance becomes even more important with age. It is not only about heart health, it is also about protecting brain health and mental clarity. Now, here is another factor most people overlook: morning stiffness and circulation patterns. If you wake up with stiffness, heaviness, or slow movement that improves gradually after you start moving, that is often related to overnight circulation and blood pressure regulation. During sleep, your body should be in a lowered pressure state. But if that balance is disrupted, you may feel it indirectly through how your body feels in the morning. Now let's connect this to something even more practical. Your daily routine is actually shaping your blood pressure more than occasional clinic visits. For example, irregular sleep times can confuse your internal clock. Your body relies on a rhythm to regulate hormones that influence blood pressure. When that rhythm is inconsistent, regulation becomes less precise. Similarly, long periods of inactivity during the day can reduce vascular flexibility. On the other hand, sudden bursts of heavy activity without preparation can cause sharp spikes. Your body prefers rhythm, not extremes. Now let's talk about emotional health again, because it plays a stronger role than most people realize. Chronic emotional tension does not always feel like stress. Sometimes it feels like restlessness, overthinking, irritability, or just a constant sense of being on edge. This state keeps your nervous system partially activated, which can subtly influence blood pressure even when you are not consciously stressed. This is why relaxation practices are not just about comfort. They are about physiological regulation. Now, here's a very important truth to understand clearly. There is no single perfect blood pressure number that guarantees health for everyone at every age. What exists instead is a safe zone that depends on your body, your age, your medical history, and how your system responds over time. For one person, a slightly higher reading may be perfectly stable and safe. For another, the same reading may indicate strain. For one person, a lower reading may feel great. For another, it may cause dizziness and risk. That is why personalization matters more than rigid targets. Now let's bring everything into a final practical understanding. Safe blood pressure for your age is not just about staying under a certain number. It is about maintaining stable readings over time, avoiding extreme highs and dangerous lows, supporting smooth circulation throughout the day, ensuring your body adapts well to movement and rest, and most importantly, preserving how you feel and function in daily life. Because ultimately, health is not just measured in numbers. It is measured in independence, energy, stability, and quality of life. And when you understand blood pressure this way, something important changes. You stop fearing every fluctuation. You stop obsessing over single readings. And you start focusing on the bigger picture, which is how well your body is actually working as a system. And that is where real control over your health begins.